Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Let's Chat Creative Pathways podcast. I'm your host, Beth Bailey. I am an artist and a community arts educator. I like sharing episodes of this podcast where I'm interviewing other creatives. I am doing general business updates and kind of catching you up on all the different things that I'm doing to sustain a life as a professional artist. And sometimes, like today, I do deep dives into a specific topic. So I've done podcasts looking specifically at grant writing before, and today is part 2 of a 2-part episode that I'm doing on a specific grant that I received. It's called the Creative Experiences Grant that is awarded through the Massachusetts Cultural Council for people in Massachusetts, typically 2 larger organizations. So the school applied for this one. If you didn't listen to the first episode, you definitely want to go back, listen to that, and maybe pop back a few episodes prior as well, where I'm talking about generally how I'm running my whole program through grant funding, organizing my business around the grant funding cycle throughout the year in Massachusetts. So in part 1, we talked about how I sought out funding, partnership, began organizing for this program, which we called Greetings from Duval Elementary. And then we got into my first day on site, where I was speaking with the children about the project and what we were doing. So the classes I saw would be broken up to 2. I saw everyone at least 2 times, sometimes 3 or 4, depending on their art schedule. So today we're going to be talking about the second visit, the visiting artists that are so fantastic and came on board to work with me on this program and come get some time with the kids in my community. And we're going to be talking about the family night that we were building towards. We're going to be talking about the community outreach portion of this, where we're reaching out beyond our community altogether. And we're also going to be talking about how I am running this program through multiple sites, even though my participants aren't traveling to multiple sites, but the work is. So they are in collaboration with each other. It is something I point out to them. Okay, so let's dive in. When I am visiting with a group for the second time, this is typically the time when I have one of the visiting artists. So the visiting artists that I had secured were Julia Driscoll from the North River Art Society. I had Michelle LeVesque, who is an amazing local artist. She runs Dovetail Studio in E.T. Wright Building in Rockland. We have collaborated on other educational programming development before. I also had Pam Golden, who is a dear family friend, an amazing sculptor, ceramic artist, also an incredibly accomplished arts educator, running program at the Inley School in Norwell for many years, and then also continuing to run arts programming at the South Shore Charter School in Norwell. Recently retired, beloved auntie vibes. So we were excited to get Pam on board. We also had Jess Hassett, who is the co-owner at Levitate and the creative visionary behind the brand and everything visual and culinary that happens over at Levitate, both in the stores and their festivals. They're running a gallery now, a lot going on over there. You can see Jess's art on billboards every year leading up to the festival. She was a great person to have in. And we also had Lindsay Boss. Lindsay is a collage artist, and she uses beautiful vintage magazines that she finds and pairs them together, making these surrealist feeling, small, delicate, just beautiful little sort of like landscapes that kind of lend themselves to storytelling almost. Lindsay is also a sign painter at Trader Joe's. And earlier we had Marsha Ballou on board. Marcia Ballou is an accomplished collage artist and painter, a bit of a mentor to me. I've taken workshops with her. Her work is collected by hospitals. Beautiful, beautiful work going up all around the country, really. And so Marcia did have to bow out, and we had another one of the other artists had filled in that spot. So I am so grateful to all of these artists. These are all people I am in community with. These are people I'm seeing at all the different shows, at the museums, taking classes together, going to arts festivals together. It's just genuinely a great artistic community in this region because everyone's showing up and excited, wanting to participate with each other in these things. So, these different jobs come up where everyone's always reaching out to each other. Hey, I got this. I'm looking to get this grant. Would you be interested in working on this program? And so, like I shared in the previous episode, this was a paid gig. I had them one day, full day on site in the art room with me, and then they came to the family night as well. So we're going to the classroom. The children have already been introduced to the program. They already know me. I've shared with them my art. I've brought some of my paintings. I've brought some of my ceramic sculpture. I have talked with them about working in production, working in collaboration with other artists. So explaining to them that, if I get an order for 100 mugs, but I only have a certain amount of time to get it done, I'll call in other artists and hire them to work with me. And if I get a job like this, and I'm very transparent with them, like, this is one of my jobs. I'm here with you all today. This is a job you can have, right? That's something that's part of the reason I'm there. And that's what I tell them. We're here to do this community project together. But one of the reasons I'm here is to let you know that you can actually be an artist living and working in this community. You can also move, around the country, around the world, even to get a variety of jobs. But there are jobs in our region. So this is my job. I'm here today, and I have hired additional artists to come in and work with us. So at this point, I already would have kind of gotten a little bit more depth about my work. And with this, I say, before we get into our demo for what we're going to be doing on our collaborative card project today, I'm going to introduce you to our visiting artist. And so I would hand it over to our artist, which of course they would have already noticed standing in another part of the art room. And I asked the artists to all bring examples of their work. And so some of them had, um, sketches, drawings, completed paintings. Michelle LeVesque and Mrs. Brown, the art teacher, pulled up um, digital images of Michelle's work and even little video snippets we had of some of her large scale, literally larger than life, giant puppets that she wore in the parade at North River Arts Festival a few years back. So that was exciting for the kids to see. So I would just kind of give the artist the floor, and I gave them a little bit of a prompt ahead of time, letting them know what we're doing here is you're going to be working collaboratively with the kids once we get going, right? Just kind of like immerse yourself, move around, make art yourself with the kids side by side, check in, see how they're doing, but really sort of like working at a peer level. The intro part, I just want you to introduce yourself, share a little bit about your different art jobs, maybe share a little bit about the art path that you took in life, how to get to where you are, and share some examples of your work. It was so fun seeing the display of all the artists' work. If I can dig up some photos from that, I'll put them on the screen here. So if you're on Spotify or YouTube, you should be able to see some of these examples. I should really put some more up on my Instagram, but I'll get to that. So that was a wonderful experience. We would have a little bit of a Q&A, and I am telling you, it is just such a joy to share this art with the children. Children are just so naturally expressive. They just share whatever they feel. And I mean, I'll tell you, when I was sharing my artwork, one of the classes erupted into a round of applause. I mean, when do visual artists get a round of applause? I was just taken aback. I was like, "You guys, thank you so much." And I did explain to them, a lot of times artists, we're working alone in our studios. We show our work, but, we see it at the opening, but it's sort of a party and no one's really, going right over to your work, or you put it online and, people see it online, I suppose. Um, but it's not like I'm a performer. I'm not used to really kind of standing up there and presenting my work that way, and then to receive a round of applause for a painting that I made. I mean, it was just so kind, so sweet. These children, they really have a good sense of how to lift people up. Just such a great the whole school is so wonderful. When Julia presented, I'll never forget, she did her whole presentation and the kids were great, honestly. I'm telling you, every single class I saw the whole time, very attentive, very engaged, very curious about what we were doing. And after Julia finished her or not her demonstration, but just like sharing, right? Her intro, showing her work and everything. We asked if anyone had any questions, and it was like a kindergartner or first grader raised their hand and just said to her, "I noticed that you're very, very patient." That was it. Just like this beautiful little compliment. Julia wasn't um needing to like really use tons of patience. The kids were being great. They were listening. Um but she is a very patient person. So that kid nailed it. It was just so kind, so sweet. The kids were really excited. And once we got through the intros, we did let them know, as we're working, you can go ahead and come up closer. So we had everything, all the art laid out on the table so they could get a closer look, and that was great. So once the artist finished their demo, I took the attention back in my direction, usually on, the other side of the room. And I I would say, okay, so now we're gonna dig into the demo. What we're doing today is we are going to be working on step 2 of the cards. So last time you all were here, everyone was doing these woven textures, right? Because we're talking about community, the importance of community, how every single one of you is an important thread in the fabric of our community. We're also thinking about other places that are important in our community. And so we've sort of accomplished that goal. And today, what we're going to be doing is just making fun, silly insides of the cards, just to bring some joy. And something I always let the kids know is that their gut instinct, sometimes we talk about this, what's intuition? What's your gut instinct? It's just the first thing that comes to your mind. I want you to just go with that, okay? So I set them up for success. The previous time they were with me, I had all the markers. I had lots of really nice high quality paint markers, alcohol markers. And last time they were with me, I just had either warm or cool so that any way they mixed the markers together, it was going to look beautiful on the front for that nice woven pattern. This visit, I let them have all of the markers. And just like in the first presentation, I let them know these are the markers I brought from my studio. These are professional artist tools. And these are the markers that I use in some of the paintings you see that I've brought to show you all. And I let them all know that because a lot of them haven't used paint markers before. So I let them know, you do not need to shake these markers. You do not need to press the tips down. If you've used them before, you might have done this. If you just notice that they kind of shake around and make a little sound, that's just to prime the marker. So this is filled with paint. So it's just like a paintbrush. So when you first get these, instead of dipping your brush into paint, you have to use that way of shaking it and pressing the tip to prime the marker, to get the marker flowing with paint. These markers have been used in my studio already. We've already been using them with a bunch of these classes. You do not need to prime them. If you do prime them, if you do all that, you will get a puddle of paint. That puddle could then get on your clothes, get on your hands, and this is acrylic paint, so it will stain your clothes. Okay, so we want to really avoid doing that. And it's pretty obvious if anyone's doing it, at least the shaking part, right? You can hear it pretty quickly. And so, a lot of them wanted to shake a little. So we really tried to keep that to a minimum because, I mean, naturally, you don't want to waste the ink either, right? But again, this is the first time these kids are using these tools. So if you see someone with this big paint splat, we weren't like, what are you doing? It's just like, okay, remember, we're teaching them how to use a new material. This is another one of the exciting things about the grant, and this is something that I do in all of my programming. I like to bring professional, high quality materials to work with these kids. Using markers like this wouldn't typically be sustainable in an elementary school's budget, right? I'm sure the teachers could figure out how to manage it and get the kids using them appropriately, but they're expensive. So it's opportunities like this through a grant that you can really kind of lean in to these nice high quality materials. So the whole thing about the materials, important to note if you're going to be rolling out paint markers in an elementary school, giving them to kindergartners all the way through 5th grade, getting the same thing for everyone. And that's one of the nice things about the way this program's designed. I can run this program for children as young as 5 years old, all the way to people in their 80s, which I'm doing. So I let them know, okay, so there's going to be a pop out. And this is something Pam had taught me because she had done pop-up cards with her group before. I'm going to grab a card right now. Okay, I got a stack of cards here. I'm going to show you. So this is the example Pam made. So you can see how it's sort of like this sort of chair structure and just like silly, fun, playful, right? So Pam taught me how to do the pop-up like that. And let's see, I'll show you some finished examples. So here is how the fabric texture came out on this one. And you can see also the little message in the fabric of our community. Let's open her up. So when you open it up, again, it has that nice little chair structure, the hearts, and it has the actual thread hanging. And the message says, you are an important thread. If you look on the back, you can see there's multiple names here. So these are all the different children that worked on this card, right? Because after people completed their one step, they were just going into the pile and starting another one for whichever step they were working on. So to make these, you'll notice also there's this patch here. So to make one of these pop-up cards, you just cut sort of about an inch square. So from the folded edge, you cut about an inch in the middle, and then an inch down, cut another inch in, and then you just pop it through. So you just kind of pop your finger through. Then that's how you sort of get this little rectangular structure. Okay. And then you glue some sort of image to pop out on the front. So we printed out all sorts of different images, and here's another one. I went through my studio and collected all the collage materials. Oh, this is nice too. This is a flamingo drawn by Christina Junko. I was cutting things out of the collaborative sketchbooks, the sketchbook project. You can check out on my website if you're curious about that. Here's another one. Okay, so cute. This person chose to write in the fabric of our community instead of using the little medallions. Oh, yeah. You are an important thread, a little koala bear. So cute. So I just went on, I used Canva and I just found a bunch of images and printed them all out in black and white. These are so good. And then let the kids draw them. So the way I had the table set up is I had the markers. Like I said, I had rainbow colors on this session. A cat with a hat, a snake in this card, one of the classic S's. If you're just listening to this podcast, you're really gonna see this. These are just so amazing. Another example, a couple different people worked on this one. You see on the back there. Okay, so the way I had the table set up is I had a tray out with a bunch of random pictures. As you can see, we have cats, we had puppies, we had birds. Their school mascot is a dolphin, so we had dolphins. We had a ton of random images that the kids could select. And so I let them know, so I showed them how, the demo. The older kids, I had them cut, but a lot of them I pre-cut, like I was at home at night doing a lot of the pop-outs. We tried to do it with the younger kids, but they're still getting scissor control, and we did do it. Like the older kids did the actual physical pop-out part, the cutting and the folding. But a lot of them had already had that done. So then we had the tray with all the little images they could do in the pop-out. We also had a tray of a bunch of these different colored papers that you can see here. Like on this one, it's a blue one, and this was like a long rectangle. We had a bunch of long rectangles cut out that could be glued over the exterior as a patch. Because once you pop in the the little pop-out section to use as your structure, you're left with a big hole on the back of the card. So that was a really simple solution. And let's see. Let's show you a couple more while I have these out. This one's great. Look at this. Beautiful fabric texture, all the dashed lines. And are you kidding me? Look at this kid. This kid popped the string through for the little kitty. This person chose to put the both of the messages in the interior, and that's fine. And on the back, you can see this one was another elementary school as well. I wrote Downey Elementary on any of the cards that were with my other group, because most of the students I was working with, about 430 students in Whitman and about 60 students in Brockton. So there were less of those cards. So I indicated Downey Elementary for those kiddos. This was one I wrote. You can see, because I was working alongside them as well. And I wrote Christina Junko. I wrote her name on this one. She had just given me one of her sketchbooks with all these beautiful birds. So I put a bunch in there for the kids. How cute is this? Oh yeah, and then it says "You are an important thread" is written up at the top. Oops. Sorry, dropped that one. All right, let's see. Oh, this is a great one too. This is one of the kids did the drawing. I wrote "In the fabric of our community." And this is one I grabbed from one of our guest artists. This one was made by Jess Hassett when she was working alongside the kiddos. Jess also made a bunch of these silly little animals. She was like cutting different animals, putting them together, decorating the animals, and then she was just leaving those on the trays for the students to choose if they wanted to add them into their cards. So so once I showed them how to do the pop-up, how to design, some of them were ready for the messages. So you can see a few of those. I had the medallions printed out. I had drawn that up. So there you can see that circle in the fabric of our community, and then the other medallion there, that circle that's purple and blue, says "You are an important thread." So they put one on the top, one on the back, and the inside. And mental note for myself, and a note for anyone else who's looking to take notes and run a program like this. In the future, I would make those medallions different colors, because the way the message is, it can kind of read if "In the fabric of our community" is on the front or the inside. If they're swapped, it's the same message. It's basically fine. But in the future, I would make them different colors so that we could separate them easier for the kids. So on the table, we had the markers, rainbow assortment, a tray with these cute little different images they could use as their pop-up. We also had the rectangular paper cut out so they could do the patch, and we had these little circles. Also available, of course, are glue sticks that I brought and scissors that were supplied by the school. So we really just kind of let the kids at it. They had so much fun. If they finished theirs, they could put them aside. So the next big thing to mention for anyone who's running a program like this is the organization of the cards. So now once we have cards coming in, we have cards that are in different phases of completion. So it was great that I was able to use some of Allie Brown's bins that she had in her art classroom and sort of start organizing them. These cards only have the fronts done. These cards have, still need the messages. These cards need the pop-out cut into them still, right? So you can kind of organize them. And this is important because, I was taking stuff home to work on at night just to kind of, maybe doing the cuts or writing some of the messages to keep the momentum going. I didn't put a crazy amount of time into it, but, when I'm just like sitting there at the end of the night, I spent a little time. I mean, I love I love being on a production line, okay? Um, Actually, I think the next podcast episode coming out is one with Nancy Clunan, where we have a nice little chat, and we actually go off for a while on how fun it is to be on a production line. So if you're like us, it's no problem bringing work like this home once in a while. Um, so after I'm sort of getting these into the mix, I'm also letting the kids know, write your first name on the back, because one of the really fun things is to see how many people worked on these. Now, if I'm seeing kids for a third or a fourth time, they've already been through the first two sections. So I just kind of look at the cards at the different stages of completion and say, okay, who needs to be moved along? Where are we getting built up? Where are we getting stuck? And I'd pass those out, of course, in accordance with their age. Interestingly, the younger children were flying through these projects. They were getting, 2, 3, 4 cards. I'm ready for another one. The older children were taking a lot longer, maybe only working on one card the whole time. And that was fine. I had a goal of everyone starting 2 and working on 2 each class. That didn't necessarily happen, but we just went with it because the most important thing is that they were sinking into their creativity. They were listening to their intuition. They were exploring new materials, being exposed to new art, new artists, new ideas. And I think we ended up with a total of maybe, I don't know, maybe 600 cards completed. I had been telling them we're going to make 1,000 cards. And between my other locations, maybe we'll get to like 750 cards total made, but huge effort, right? That's a lot of cards. Um, but yeah, it was great. Once I saw, especially the older kids, I was then sort of indicating to them, okay, I've passed out cards that all need the messages added to them. So I need you guys to all work on that. Once you finish that, I have another bin of cards that just need something random, right? Because once we started getting these piles mixed through, would sort of it didn't make sense to kind of separate them all into their different sections. At some point, it made sense to just have one bin that was like, okay, all the cards in this bin need something. And that was fun too, because I would make a list on the board saying, okay, what is a completed card? It has a fabric decorated front. It has a pop-up inside. It has a colorful inside. It has the messages. And that's about it, right? So check the card you have at your table or the one you're swapping out, see what it needs, do it, get it into the bin. And some of the kids were finished at a point where I let them start adding the string too. So I had a whole bunch of the yarn I'd brought in from my studio, and they were cutting it. And I tried different ways of attaching it, tying it to the little pop-out, gluing it in. At the end of the day, it made sense to just cut a length of string, maybe 4 inches long, and just sort of loop it in there, because once the card's closed up, it stays in pretty well. All right, so family night, right? This is what we're all leading to. So we're telling the kids family night. Also, I don't know if I mentioned this in the first episode now, but I'm also engaging in conversation with the students throughout that everyone's going to be able to take a card in the end, keep it, share it with someone else if they like. It's their choice. But the rest of the cards are going to get sent out to the community. So we started gathering a list. So kids would be letting me know throughout the time, and I was working on my list of places in the community these could be sent to. We got a really beautiful list. All sorts of extracurricular activities these kids are doing, different sports groups, clubs, all sorts of things. It was great. And we had some requests from the adults too. I think some made it their way over to the school committee. And we also have a lot of local restaurants that work with the PTO. So they'll have like one day where they, anyone who comes in and says, oh, I'm here from Duval Elementary, it'll be, 10% of the sale will then get donated to the PTO. So any of those restaurant partners, I think we have them on our list too to get them some. All right, so family night. Family night was so fun. We ran it for 2 hours. And the way I like to run family events is I like them to be self-propelling. So you come whenever you want, jump in the mix wherever you are, right? Because everyone's on a different time schedule. Some people just want to come in and out. Some people want to be there for the whole thing. I wanted everyone to have as much as experience as they wanted. And I didn't want to be running around like a madman, right? I like enjoying it. So the way I always like to try to run family nights is um, to have different stations set up and have the children already understand the process. These are the exact same stations they've worked in before. And then I make some sort of a guide. So in this case, because I did mention we were in a difficult space in the budget, wanted to be tight on printing, I made an extra space on my website, a page that was all about the family night. And it had at the top of it a big graphic that says, Welcome to Family Night. And so that was also projected. We had a projector down, Welcome to Family Night. And it explained what we're doing. So what we were doing is we had 12 of the lunch tables. We're in the cafeterias, like cafetorium. We had 12 lunch tables set up. I had brown paper on all of them. And every other table had a different phase. So at one table, there were blank cards that were starting out. At the next table, it was, scissors to do the pop out and use that rectangle paper to cover the hole the pop up creates. The next table was adding your images. And then there was another table that had coloring the inside, another table that had gluing string in, right? So we broke everything up. That might have only been 5, but we broke everything up into 5 sections. And then as the night went on, I think we ran out of the blank cards, which was fine because we really wanted to finish the cards that we had in process more than really add more in at that point, because the event was over at this point. So or like the residency was coming to a close at this point. So at some point, that station shut down and we just kind of moved cards around a little bit. But so that was every other table. So we had 3 tables on one side of the room, 3 tables on the other. Now mixed in, 3 on one side, 3 on the other, were the 6 artists. So we had each artist bring some of their artwork, a little display to share of their work. And I also made on the web page that I said that we had all the information of the family night, I had QR codes on the projector. I had QR codes at every artist table. I also, let me grab one. I made these signs for every artist. So you can see, actually, you could take a nice little screenshot there to use the QR code if you want to go check out the web page. At some point, I am going to change what's on that web page to just be more of a local art guide. It won't be specific, but if you're watching this in 2026, it'll probably be the same. So meet the artist, learn more about tonight's events, and see our local art guide. And then I made these great little collages with some fancy paper. And for every single artist, I had this. At the end, I had them all take them home. What a fun little thing to have in your studio, right? So I had these with each artist. They were able to put their work out. I wrote the names on the tables. And again, this isn't just about letting the kids know that there's opportunities in the arts, right? We need their parents to know. We need their parents to see real working artists in our community so that they can help encourage their children to pursue the arts if they're interested in that. Have some ideas. You could do this, you could do that, and have an opportunity to speak with these artists. And so that was great. So the artists were just kind of like hanging out at their tables, or they would, mix in a little bit with the crowd and make some artwork. But, their pictures are right here, so they're very easy to track down. And so again, on that website, it was the image of what are we doing tonight, explaining what was going on. Then next below that on the website, it had little blurbs for each artist. So each artist had their picture, a little blurb about them, a link to their website where to see more of their work. And then there was below each of the artists, there was or is the local art guide. And I identified a handful of places around our community where people can get more involved in the arts, right? Because I'm talking about this like incredibly vibrant community of the arts I have in my region, but I'm obsessed with this, right? So I'm always looking for these things. If you're not into the arts or you're not, hanging out with artists, you could live in this community and not know about all the opportunities. So I really wanted to direct the families to How many amazing things are here? We had Fuller Craft Museum is in Brockton, a beautiful, amazing museum. Duxbury Art Complex Museum, free. It's free to go to this museum. Beautiful sculptural grounds. South Shore Art Center, that's another location you can go. You can take classes. North River Art Society, one of my favorites. You can take classes. There's shows. There's a festival. I had Frame Center listed. This is a place, yes, people go for fine art framing, but they have multiple gallery spaces. They have a podcast interviewing lots of other local artists, and a really great gathering place. I'm going to keep adding to this too. I had E.T. Wright Building, the Sandpaper Factory. These are places where artists have their studios. They have open studios you can go to. And yeah, I'll keep adding to this as things come to mind so people can go to that and share that. So that was a family event. So it was great. People came in, they kind of could self-propel, they could see what was going on a little bit. We did have volunteers, which was great. The PTO helped out with that. I think I said in the last episode, the PTO also helped getting a sign-up list going so that on days I was solo, I didn't have a visiting artist coming with me into the classroom. Parents could volunteer to be with me, be an extra set of hands. It was fantastic. And also on that, we had a handful of spots that were available for people to come and volunteer at the family night. And you know what was awesome? I mean, it filled the spot. We have a beautiful school community. They all filled the spots, but some of them were just like, okay, I'm here to volunteer. What's there to do? And they're honestly, it was flowing. It was working. I'm like, just engage, just maybe let people know to scan the QR code if they don't know what to do, but it was great. And then the PTO had also reached out to the National Honor Society students at the high school. We got a handful of those volunteers, and actually some of them still have a bunch of photos that I'd like to see. I need to, one of them I tasked with, okay, I need you're on media, take a bunch of photos, and I think they did. But yeah, I had the students spread out, and so, I set everything up with the help of, many hands. And the last thing I hadn't talked about is, yeah, a couple of artists came earlier as well. Julia and Lindsay were there early and helped set up the cards, the finished station, right? Because this is one of the things. You come, you get to leave with a card. For however many children you have in attendance at Duval, that's how many cards you are welcome and encouraged to leave with today. You can keep it for yourself. You can pass it on further in the community, whatever you like. So what we did, and this was an idea from Miss G, Laura G, over at Downey Elementary in Brockton. I was talking with her about this because I'm also running the program with her after school kids. And she suggested, it worked out great, is we had a bunch of, I think it was desks. We had like student desks that were already on the stage. We pulled them to the front of the stage, and I had a rope. So I tied, well, Julia and Lindsay tied the rope kind of like going in two levels all the way back and forth along a stage. And I had clothespins from the spare studio. I got to get into that too. And so all the finished cards were going up there. So all the finished cards we had already completed were up there, ready to go. And all the envelopes as well. Those were, I believe the envelopes were all at the string station because that's sort of the last step. You cut the string, put it in the card, put it in the envelope, you're good to go. So all the finished cards are up there. And then if people finished the cards, right, if they took a card all the way through all the stations, they could keep that one if they wanted, or they could add it onto this beautiful display. And I'll definitely include like some pictures and videos. It was such a joy. The kids were having a great time. It was so much fun. Yeah, just any event like that where you can get everyone together is really special. And so, okay, about the paint markers. So, like I said, there's a lot of lead up. This is how you use a paint marker, kind of listening. Is anyone shaking when they're not supposed to? Going around, making sure. I knew that the family night was going to be a little bit more of a, choose your own adventure. There wasn't going to be exactly as much oversight. And so I decided to hold the paint markers back. So I did have the paint markers, but they were at a back table, sort of like behind my display of stuff. So you really couldn't see them. But the children, this is their cafeteria, right? They're comfortable there. So some of the older kids did kind of notice, oh, the paint markers are back here. And I absolutely let them dig in. And some of them were kind of sitting in the back using the paint markers on their cards. And that was totally fine. I didn't really announce it. They found them. I was like, go for it. They were good. And they knew, they could see too, right? They naturally have their own little sort of private station to be using it. So they got it. Just like the way you set things up can set people up for success. That's a big component of how I try to do everything with arts education. Um, so that being said, I needed something to people drawing with. So I reached out to Zarla at the Spare Studio at the E.T. Wright building. Huge. Zarla has an amazing place where it's a studio where artists can donate their supplies to, or anyone can donate their art supplies to if they're just sitting around building up whatever. And then schools and nonprofit organizations can get these supplies for free, right? I mean, I'm not going to be getting oil paints for free, right? If I'm buying stuff for myself from my studio, I pay for those, but it's an amazing lower price for that stuff, right? Because it's maybe a little bit of the tube has been used. Honestly, a lot of the stuff I've gotten from the Spare Studio is brand new. But I told Zarla what we were doing for the family event, and she assembled several hundred markers for us to use. She even let us borrow a bunch of the little bins so we could have them nice, organized out, spread out everywhere. And that was wonderful. There's another organization called Make Be Brand New that tries to repurpose arts materials and all sorts of things. And we got a nice donation of some supplies from them as well. And the clothespins. Luckily, I was talking about the clothespins. That's what reminded me to get into this. Those were also from Zarla. And all of these hundreds of Crayola markers and the bins and the hundreds of clothespins, I don't need these in my studio, right? This isn't a program I'm doing all the time. This is sort of a special thing. So I'm also running this program at another location, and I'm going to do a family night there. Once the family night's done there, I'm going to bring all this stuff back to the Spare Studio for someone else to use or for me to borrow again sometime. But that's the beautiful thing. I don't need to store all this stuff here when I don't, these aren't supplies that I use all the time. It's a really beautiful idea. I'm just so grateful to have this in our community. Again, just such a well-supported arts community here in this region south of Boston because of all these different key players coming together and bringing their ideas to life. So last thing I want to touch on here is the other communities working on this project, as I mentioned. So I work weekly at the Douglas House. That's a 62 plus independent living apartment building that I make art with every week. So we had those community members started a bunch of these cards, and now that they're getting finished, I'm going to bring them back and give some to them, right? Because that's the whole idea. Make one, take one. So they're going to be receiving some of these finished cards that are so cute. But first, I am running a shorter residency with the after-school program at Duval Elementary in Brockton. And that one is from a local cultural council grant that we received through Brockton. So that was one that we applied for in October of 2025. That was one as under my nonprofit, or even if you're an individual, not a nonprofit, you can submit for local cultural council grants in Massachusetts. So I applied for that, and we received the funding. Very exciting. So the funding for that was to cover 4 site visits. And then additionally, I do fundraising throughout the year. People can donate directly to Creative Pathways, my nonprofit, and the money that comes in as donations goes directly to booking additional time and paying for more materials at this particular after-school program in Brockton. So over the past year, I was able to raise a couple $100s, and that is what supplemented the 5th visit. So I have a total of 5 visits. And if you would like to donate directly to help support this funding, I would really appreciate it. You can do that at creative-pathways.com/donate or creativepathwaysproject.com. There's a donate button. Go ahead and donate to me directly. Also in my shop, I have one thing for sale, and that is boxed greeting cards. I had a bunch of beautiful boxed greeting cards printed based off of collaborative paintings that we made together at the Douglas House in Brockton. They're beautiful. There's a triptych. So there's one with 3 panels, this beautiful tropical scene inspired by Cape Verde and Haiti and Puerto Rico, where a lot of these residents and staff have come from, Guatemala as well. And they're blank greeting cards. And then there's another 3 cards that are the individual panels. They all stand alone, are beautiful. And there's one beautiful collage from the city of downtown Brockton with a beautiful flower-covered cab in the center with one of our painters, Yvette, in the driver's seat of the cab. It's a great piece. So there's 5 cards in the box set, and 100% of the profit from that is considered a donation. So go ahead, buy a whole bunch of box greeting cards, please. Send me a little donation so I could book more of these classes. So, okay, so we got the Cultural Council grant to cover 4. We got, I self-funded one of them. And so what we decided to do was have 4 days on site working with the students and then 1 family night. So we're going to do another night similar. We're going to run it the same way, have it this production line. I've been in there 3 times now working with the groups. I have a group of, 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders. We've been kind of merging together into 2 groups. And I see them each for about 40 minutes. Never feels enough time though. So next time when I see them, I'm going to set everything up production style, the way that we do for the family night. And I'm going to get the kids in the mix, which would be cool because then they'll actually see how the whole thing works. The next visit will be number 5. And that's when they're going to have any of their grown-ups come and join us for a fun event. And for this group, because we have such limited time, only 40 minutes, I mean, honestly, like less, it might even be 30. It goes by so fast. I definitely had more time with each group at the elementary school in Whitman. So I told them about how the extra cards we make are going to go out to the community, but I didn't want to get into that big conversation. So what I've been telling them is at the family night, I'm going to have a huge paper that you, any of your grownups, any staff, anyone can write important community places. So it got going a little bit. People were throwing out some ideas, like there's some shops that the kids like to shop for. There's a Dunkin' Donuts right on the corner that everyone's going to for coffee in the morning. I even gave some of the suggestions some of the other schools did, like, does anyone take dance? Or is anyone in CCD, right? That's another thing people had mentioned. Girl Scouts, like, is there a doctor's office that, you actually like the people there when you go? Things like that. So we'll see. So that's another thing, one more thing I'm going to add in at the family night there. So they'll have that whole list to contribute to. So any of the extra cards we have will get sent out to the community. So that's the program. That's pretty much it. 2 episodes later. Oh yeah, that's all. But yeah, it's such a joy. It is my dream to be doing this work. Community arts education. You gotta be an entrepreneur. You gotta be ready to do the legwork and bob and weave, be ready for changes, different things to come up. But I've developed a very pliable program, so it really works with many different communities, all ages and abilities is my goal. That's what I want to hit. And so I developed my programming to hit that. Everyone can be successful in this type of collaborative programming. And it's so fun to see what happens when everyone can come together and make some art, do a big project you couldn't do alone. So in this episode, we covered going through the artist intros, going through how to actually make the pop-up cards, paint marker warnings, talking about the local art guide I made on my website, how to organize the family night, how to incorporate multiple sites too. So the kids can see, oh, these ones, I don't know these kids' names. Yeah, they're from another school, letting them know, oh, that one says the Douglas House on it. That means that someone in their 70s probably started this card and now you're working on it. And it was really just such a joy. So, so I'm sure sometime in the future I'll run a program like this again. Otherwise, my mind is always abuzz with a new idea. So if you have any comments or questions about this program, any feedback or ideas, I always love to hear from you. You can email me at beth@creativepathwaysproject.com. You can shoot me a DM on Instagram at Creative Pathways Project. And sign up for my newsletter, because my newsletter is a combination of what's happening in Creative Pathways and what's happening in my pottery and painting studio. I'm trying to send them out once a month. And there is a sign up for that on my website. So you can head over to creative-pathways.com or creativepathwaysproject.com. They both work. I bought both URLs because I'm indecisive. So I just got them both. All right. Thank you so much for your time and for your interest in this work. It's a niche field, but it's my life and it's my happy place. So thanks for coming along for the ride with me.